For those of you who are new here, I know that over 80% of you are unsubscribed. This is a channel where I help get your lawn from brown and disgusting to green and beautiful in just under a year. I've worked in the industry for over 3 years, so please feel free to subscribe. I will help you get the best lawn on the block. So this is what happens when you get frost on the last weekend of May. You end up with all of this shit that was supposed to be planted on the long weekend. Sitting out here in the sun, and then it's going to go back in the garage overnight, or else it will get frostburn. So it's been a fun last couple days. We had snow yesterday. Gonna get frost again tonight. Fun times moving all this in and out of the garage. How's it going, Welcome back to the Great Crew North. Not 100% sure what's going on with our weather. We were 32 degrees 2 days ago, and yesterday we got about 5 centimeters of snow. So it's Canada. What can you do? We got frost warnings the next couple days, so we'll definitely we had to take all the annuals in, which is not normal for here. We can get crop damaging frost all the way up to about mid-June, but we don't see it very often. This is the first year I've seen it in quite a while. So without further ado, today we're going to be talking about that question and answer video that I did a couple days ago. We're going to be answering some of your questions about things about the lawn. So without further ado, let's get into that video. So one of you all out there asked, when a person burns their lawn with fertilizer, what actually happens to the lawn and how does it recover? Well, today is your lucky day because, as I said earlier in the video, I accidentally burned this spot in my lawn with fertilizer a couple days ago. So this is after a couple days, and as you can see, the fertilizer is actually still down in there. So I actually used a shop vac to suck as much of this out as I could, but it's still down in there. So what you're seeing here is about a couple days after the plant itself is shriveling up and dying, and this is what a burn spot will look like. It almost looks like it was sprayed with a chemical, because it was. So without further ado, let's talk about what's going on here. So nitrogen is the main thing that burns your lawn, and nitrogen helps the plant grow. But when you put down too much nitrogen at the same time, it's a poison. It poisons the soil and stops the plant from growing. So this is what happens when you burn your lawn. You've poisoned this spot of soil, and now the plant has too much nitrogen and it's not going to be able to grow properly. So it had got too much nutrients. You poisoned the plant. It cannot process it all at the same time. So basically you burned the roots. Fertilizer are chemicals, especially synthetic fertilizers. They're chemicals. This one's also a chemical, and when I spilt it here, I accidentally burned the grass and poisoned this part of the soil. So this soil will be poisoned for a couple months probably before grass will repair itself. Because you poison the soil, it takes a while for the grass to come back. This grass will go completely brown, be a big brown spot right here. It will come back, probably. It's really difficult to kill everything, but it will come back, but it will take a while. I burned a little spot in my front yard a couple years ago when the fertilizer, same thing here, hit a bump and a little bit splashed out. And what happened with that spot was it took almost the rest of the year to repair itself. We burned it in late fall, and it didn't come back till next spring. So pretty much you basically just killed your grass there, and because you just burned it with a chemical. It's no different than herbicide burn. It's actually very similar to herbicide burn. Some of the new weed killers that they use up here in Canada, because we're not allowed to use 2,4-D dithiopyrochlorac, Fiesta is all it is nitrogen and iron combined together, and it basically shoots it in high doses on the broadleaf weeds and burns them to their core, because broadleaf weeds can take in a lot more nitrogen than regular grass can because of the surface of their blades. So if you cover the surface of their blades with liquid nitrogen, you're basically just burning the broadleaf weeds out of your lawn. So what you're doing there is basically burning your lawn with fertilizer. So that's what happens when you burn your lawn in fertilizer. It's a chemical burn, no different than herbicide burn, and it will look like this. It will look very gray, start to brown out after a couple days, and that's what's gonna happen. Let's talk about what can you do when it happens. So when this happened, this was a spill. What I did immediately was start grabbing out as much as I can with my hands. Next thing that I would suggest is I went and got the shop vac and vacuumed it out of the grass. This is not going to do the best thing for you, but you can try your best to vacuum it out of the grass. And then after you finish that, definitely go get a hose and soak it. Soak the crap out of it. The best thing you can do is hopefully get some of this nitrogen to run away or rinse itself down into the soil, to hope that it's not going to burn all at the same time. But as you can see, I soaked the crap out of it with a hose for the longest time. It poured rain yesterday and there's still fertilizer down in here because this was not a great spill. And I vacuumed the shit out of this and we're still looking at a burn spot here. So this is what's going to happen when you burn. Those are the best thing to do, and just continually keep watering it. Watering it's going to help flush that chemical through the soil, help the chemical be processed easier, which is going to allow your recovery time to be better. So that's why I like to water the crap out of it, and watering the crap out of it's the best thing you can do. This is similar to what happens when dogs pee. When dogs pee in your lawn and you get brown spots, or sometimes you get really dark green spots, that's because dogs' urine has urea in it, and urea is a natural fertilizer. It's nitrogen, and depending on what the dog ate or what the dog drank, the urea can either have a very high dose of nitrogen to the point where it puts really dark green spots in your lawn. It tends to be the deal with smaller dogs. Or it has too much nitrogen that it puts brown spots in your lawn, which tends to be the problem with bigger dogs. And these brown spots are basically the same as what I did here, burning your lawn with fertilizer. So that's what happens when you burn your lawn with fertilizer. It's basically a chemical burn. I would say recovery time is about a couple months. And the best thing to do to remedy it is try to suck out as much of the fertilizer, or rake out as much of the fertilizer you can, and then get a vacuum and then get a hose and water the crap out of it daily, and hope that you can flush that fertilizer through the soil. So I'm hiding in the garage here from the wind a little bit. My next question is, let's read it here. What got you started in the lawn care business? What was your inspiration? So way back when, more than a few years ago, maybe like 6-7 years ago, my lawn was really overgrown and it did not look very good. I'll put up pictures if I have pictures of what it originally looked like. The people who lived in this house before we did were not lawn care people. They did not take care of it, and this house was a new build, so the lawn was seeded at the time, and what we were dealing with was not a great yard. So I started mowing the yard in 2012 with that little push mower over there, and I mowed the whole yard. As a little kid, I would mow it up and down all the time every week, and it took about 2 hours because we didn't have a riding mower, and we did that for about 4 or 5 years, I think. And we fertilized, my dad was always, he liked to take care of the lawn and have it nice. Obviously not as much as I did, but he tried his best to put in the work and lawn, and honestly he did a lot to help this yard green up. So the yard was looking pretty good, but we never irrigated or took anything farther than just putting down the Scott stuff. And the Scott stuff can get you started, but it can only get you so far. And one day the lawn was really wet and overgrown, and I was trying to figure out if I should mow it, and I stumbled upon the Lawn Care Nuts YouTube channel. And since then I've been watching the Lawn Care Nut pretty regularly. I haven't watched him as much recently, but I've watched him pretty regularly for the longest time. And that kind of got me into it at the beginning. I started, spending more time in the yard. When we got the John Deere over there, I was cutting the yard a bit. And then one year, the first fall renovation we did, which I guess would be about 5 years ago now, I would say that's probably where a lot of the obsession started, because that fall renovation took us from here to here overnight. And this is why I talk on and on about the fall renovation and how important it is. Same with the mowing practices. Even before we irrigated, a couple of the years that I spent mowing tall and mowing properly really took the lawn from here to here, and then the fall renovation took it to the other step. And we've done 3 fall renovations since then, or 4 I think now, and everyone has given us great results. So that's kind of, I would say, where it started. Then I worked at a landscape lawn care company. We mowed about 60 lawns a week. We treated chemicals, fertilizer, everything like that. I worked there for a little over a year, and then I worked at a golf course, local golf course to here, for a little over a year during COVID, and now I'm working in carpentry and stuff like that, which is what I want to do. But I still love doing lawn stuff, and I learned a ton from working at the landscape company, looking at other people's lawns, treating with chemicals. I learned a lot about spraying with chemicals, different types of chemicals. I learned a lot about fertilizer and everything like that. Working at the golf course, I learned a lot about shortcut turf, fairways, everything like that. Me and the superintendent would just sit there and chat about fertilizer and stuff a lot, and people would look at us like I'm weird, but like, you know, he went to school and I didn't, but I know all this stuff just because, you know, it's the type of thing I like to do. But yeah, all those things kind of started my passion into it. You know, and then I've always made YouTube videos for my other channel, and then a couple years ago, or last year, I decided to start this channel to help educate people, because the questions just kept coming in. As soon as the lawn was impressive, people would start saying, you know, what are you doing? How are you doing it? People from my dad's work would ask questions, everything like that. So that was when I ended up creating the channel to help answer questions for those of you who are watching. So that's kind of how it all got started about 7 years ago now. I am a bit new here. I haven't been around for 20 years, but you know, my experience working in the industry has definitely helped me, and that's why I want to pass on this education to people, because everybody wants the perfect lawn, but a lot of people don't understand what you need to do to get it. And honestly, it's not that hard. So that's what I'm trying to educate people about. Put in the work, put in the effort, and you'll get the perfect lawn in the end. So that's where it started, and we're hoping to keep going it now. Next question, what's the best method to fix dead yellow spots in my lawn? Now, this question is gonna start with the lawn care nut's favorite phrase, which is you find a dead spot in your lawn, you need to dig. So obviously, depending on what the dead spot is, it could be disease, it could be drought stress, heat stress, it could be fertilizer burn, it could be burn from a dog, it could be something's wrong with the soil in that location. There's many different things that could be causing this. I've talked in videos before about what heat stress looks like, what drought stress looks like. The best way to fix those spots is localized watering. Get out your hose and soak them real good. Now this is before they've gone complete crusty yellow. And if you're not planning to irrigate, don't do that, because you're just going to confuse the lawn by taking it in and out of dormancy a lot. But yes, watering, irrigating those spots will help. Grubs is another thing, and insects, chinch bug, sod webworm, all those different types of things. Those normally, if it is a localized spot, you should be able to dig with a shovel and figure out what is going on. You should be able to start seeing sod webworm, grubs, different types of things in the life cycle, depending on the time. If it's May, late May, early June, that's normally grubs. If it's late June, early August, that's normally chinch bug, different things like that, depending on their feeding schedule and when they feed. If you see a lot of moss flying around on the surface of the lawn as you mow, that's probably sod webworm, because that's where sod webworm comes from. These different types of things are going to help you indicate what's in that brown spot. But digging is the best thing. If you dig and that soil is dirt dry or bone dry, then you know it's a watering issue probably. If you dig and you find a whole bunch of chinch bugs, ants, different types of things like that, you know it's probably an insect issue. If you're seeing patterns, so snake-like patterns, circle-like patterns in the lawn that are these brown spots, it's probably a disease. Disease is really difficult because we can't really treat disease up here in Canada. We don't have any of the chemicals to treat it. So the best thing to do when you get disease, you can maybe contact your local lawn care company, see if they have anything that they can come and spray for you. Because we're not allowed as homeowners to spray it. Another thing you can do when you find disease is think about what you've been doing. What have your mowing practices been? Are your blades not sharp? Are you tearing the grass blade? These things are going to help open you up to getting disease. Are you watering at night? Do you see a lot of fungus going on in the lawn? These things are going to help open up where is your disease coming from, and maybe cultural practices that you can change in your own lawn to stop you from getting more disease in the future. So a lot of things up here in Canada, because we don't have chemicals to act on it immediately, it's more how to prevent it in the future, about strengthening and growing the lawn to prevent these issues from prevailing in the future. My lawn used to be filled with weeds. It's not. I really don't spray many weeds in my backyard, and I haven't. I went out and pulled them all by hand, and that's the best thing to do. That's how you're going to deal with it. That's how you're going to get rid of it. So the next question is, what about string trimming? Tips and advice for flower beds and pathways. Okay, folks, this is a question I get a lot, and honestly, it's something that I'm really proud of for me personally, but it's something that takes a lot of effort. I worked at a lawn care company and at a golf course for about 3 years, and when you start at a golf course, your job is to go trim an entire 18-hole golf course. I swear that I trimmed over 1,000 trees a day for weeks on end, and that's the only way in the end to get better at trimming. The best way to get better at trimming is you need to put the practice in. So don't think that because you're bad at trimming, this means that you're only going to trim once a month. Trim after every time you mow. That's how you're going to get better. Maybe leave a big open spot in your lawn that don't mow with your mower that you can go and trim with your trimmer. We trimmed ginormous slopes at the golf course with a trimmer, and by the end they would look like they were just trimmed with a mower. They would look awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit more about trimming. I'm going to make a full video on it because I really do think that it's a thing that can take your lawn just to the next level. People who cannot trim, they have their lawn, there's just, it drives me crazy. I've walked by so many houses of people who just don't trim, and I see all that grass on their fence line or on the edges, and it's just like, if you took the couple seconds to clean up those edges, it takes your lawn to the complete next level. And as soon as I started trimming, I mean, I was never very good at trimming when I started. I hated trimming. In fact, I was one of those people who would only trim like twice a year because I didn't want to do it. But a couple years ago, when I started working, I started trimming more. I would trim, and now I trim everything every time I finish mowing. I edge all the garden beds, and I got a big property. It's a lot of trimming. It's about 20 minutes of trimming after we finish, but it gives it that extra look. So let's talk about a couple things about edging, trimming, just a couple different things like that. Okay, so when it comes down to an edge like this on a walkway or a pathway, you guys probably have this on your sidewalk. There's two different options for this. You can use a string trimmer, flip it on its side and trim it like this, straight up and down, or you can use a blade edger. I've never used a blade edger in my life. I worked at a lawn care company and a golf course, and blade edgers are just too expensive for those people. So what we end up doing is we just string trim everything. We flip edge all these. We edged all bunkers the same way. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like in a couple of seconds here, how to flip edge and everything like that. Next thing, this slope here I can't get with the riding mower, so what I do is I hit it with the trimmer, trim it all nice and flush, and that's that. Now next, when it comes to garden beds and trimming this edge, now obviously this hasn't been mowed, sorry for that, it's a job to do a little later today. When it comes to doing garden bed, edging garden beds is a very important thing. Edging with a shovel more than a couple times a year. What I'm going to do is every time I mow, or every time I weed the garden beds, I come around with a quick shovel and give it a nice clean edge. For those of you who have mulch in your beds, which we're running out of, but we did at one point, you need to edge your beds before you mulch them. This is going to help keep the grass pressure from taking over your beds and help the weeds from your beds coming into your grass. This is very important, especially for people who have really nice lawns, as you can see, the grass pressure into the beds is actually worse than the weed pressure out of the beds, because the grass is so strong, it just constantly pushes out rhizomes, because it's like great soil times grow, when you're like, no, I don't want you to grow there. So number one, come on here with a string trimmer, wisp your edges straight up and down first. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Then number two, you're going to take the trimmer, flip edge your beds, so you keep the grass over here from shooting in your beds. You want your beds to be nice and straight and cut in and defined. So that's what we're going to do when we edge these beds. I'm going to do some close-ups after I do the mow here of those different trimming aspects and how I like to do it. That's what I recommend for trimming. Honestly, it gives it such a nice clean look, and I do it on all the beds around the house, all the beds around the property. It really just tidies everything up and gives everything a nicer look. So for those of you who want trimming tips, that's that. I'm going to make a complete another video about it, probably, because it's something that I get asked a lot. especially just from people who live around me, because it's something that is never really explained. People think it's easy and people don't do it properly, and they end up scalping and wrecking things. So that's why I'm gonna make a whole video on it. But okay, so let's take a look at the trimming here. First of all, a couple things to note here as I'm going up and down. As you can see, there's a little bit of tip on that head. You want to tip it in just to give those edges a little bit of sculpted look, so they're going to kind of start to get shorter the closer they get to the bed. Just a slight tip though, little slight tip on the head, and then I level it out here as I get closer to the stair. Next, the flip edging. You want to make sure that you're going parallel with that line that you want. So you can't be twisting the head so the one string is digging in while the other string is not. You have to treat both of those strings like they are a solid piece of metal, and they have to stay straight, parallel with the edge that you're trying to make. Anyways, that's a pretty simple down version how to edge around beds and walkways. So without further ado, let's go into the final question. Okay, final question time. Now this question was not asked particularly for the Q&A video, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So I got a question about what my fertilizer program is, and I don't really think I've ever explained that in super detail to you guys, so I want to explain it now. So number one, we fertilize the beginning of spring when soil temperatures hit about 50 degrees. This is going to help kickstart your lawn in the spring. Spring is the most important time for root growth and any other type of growth. So that's why I hit hard with my fertilizer program in the spring. After we hit that, we're going to wait about a couple weeks to May 2-4 weekend up here in Canada, or for those of you down in the States, Memorial Day weekend. Going to hit with your second dose of fertilizer. This dose of fertilizer is kind of works together with the first dose to really help push that root growth. It's going to kind of kickstart the lawn again after, because normally when we hit May 2-4 weekend, we're kind of getting out of the spring flush. All of our rain is done. The lawn is starting to get heat stress for the summer, so it's just going to give it that final boost out of spring to say you did good, here's some extra root growth, here's some things to look nice in the summer. I don't really like to push growth in the summer because of the heat stress caused by the lawn. I'm gonna start trying to do it more recently because I irrigate, and when you irrigate and you don't fertilize for a while, your lawn just starts to lose color and it just starts to kind of look all blah because it doesn't have any nutrients to grow from. So I'm gonna try a spoon feeding program this year, I think, which is gonna add an extra fertilizer dose in July 1st, Canada Day. I think that's the only dose I'm going to do this year. That dose is going to be a lower dose, probably about half of my regular dose, which are all 3 pounds per thousand of nitrogen. This one's going to be probably down around 1.5, maybe 2, just kind of on the yard, just to give it a little boost into the summer. We go through the months of July. June and July are the hottest months here. Then when we hit August, things start to cool down. We hit our first fertilizer dose of the fall about second last week of August. This would be in conjunction with your fall renovation for those of you who are doing that, and an aeration. So even if you're not doing overseeding, aeration is definitely important, especially for those of you who have lawn tractors like me. They really compact your soil and cause problems. So aeration is definitely important to help open things up. That's your first dose pushing out of fall. So you're gonna have a dose with phos in it because it's gonna push you out of the summer. It's gonna help repair all those brown spots. The rain is coming, your lawn's gonna start thickening up and growing again. You're going back into a flush. You're getting out of the stress of summer. You're trying to heal the lawn and get it back. So that's what that fertilizer app is for in late August. I would say about second last week of August, because we need to go 6 weeks before our first frost. And our first frost here is about Canadian Thanksgiving, second week of October. So we need to be careful about that. We can get frost in September too, but that's what tends to happen. The final fertilizer application of the year. So my program is about 5 apps. The final app is going to be 2 weeks before your major crop damaging frost for us. I normally put it down on Thanksgiving. This app is what they would call a winterizer traditionally, and this means that it's going to more give nutrients for your lawn in the spring. So the nutrients is going to be absorbed by the lawn in the fall. It's just going to kind of sit in the lawn. It's not really going to do much because the lawn is going into dormancy anyways. And then next spring, in conjunction with your 2 spring doses, it's really going to help kickstart the lawn as soon as the temperatures get nice outside. That's my fertilizer program. As you can see, it's not a yearly based program. It's a circle based program where the final dose of the year feeds back into the first dose of the year. So this is not just a 1-year program. You need to keep doing this year after year. It's really a circle program. Everything with your lawn is a circle. Winter is a part of the cycle. People kind of assume that the lawn season goes from spring to fall and then it ends. Winter is a part of that cycle. Winter is the same as summer. It's another time of stress. Flowing back into spring, all your same problems are going to return. Winter is not a solution to lawn problems. So that is what my fertilizer program is. For those of you wondering, when I talk about my fertilizer program, that's what I'm talking about. So without further ado, I hope that I answered you guys' questions in this Q&A video. Thank you guys for all of you who submitted the questions. The channel is growing here, and I want to make sure that I'm still getting around to answering you guys' questions in the comments in these Q&A video. For those of you who are watching this Q&A video and didn't see the previous video where I asked you for questions, leave any questions you have down below and I might answer it in another Q&A video. So I don't mind doing these question and answer videos. I think some of you like to or prefer to have your questions answered in video form, and honestly I prefer just talking about it than writing it all down. So for those of you who have more questions, please leave them down below. I'll make sure to make another video like this. For those of you who submitted questions, thank you very much. Thank you for your support. For those of you who are new to the channel, please subscribe. I help you get your lawn from brown and disgusting to green and beautiful in a little under a year. So without further ado, thank you guys for watching this Great Green North. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, in the Great Green North, my name is Wayne Murray. Keep it green.